Hey guys, Spamwaits here. Welcome to basically the final vlog of the travel of this whole road trip sort of deal. Basically, I'm going to be doing the whole takeaways part of the video while showing you everything that is all of, well, Interstate 40 and going westward from Texas all the way back to California. Just as a heads up, it took about, what is it, 3 days? Amarillo, Flagstaff, um, Barstow, 3 nights, 4 days and 3 nights to go from basically Temple, Texas to Central California. So yeah, we just definitely took it easy, even though something happened while we were in Texas. So that's why we had to go soon, unfortunately. But before going to basically back home, around Temple, there was one pretty cool thing that I didn't expect to see, but I think I remember like searching it up before, and it's like, oh, we need to pass here before we go. And that is Buc-ee's. See you guys in these clips. I don't know. Pecan brittle, peanut brittle. Hold on, how long is it gonna take? Let's see if I can get around. What? Yeah, I'm gonna grab a cup and like that. No, I didn't pay it yet. Okay. I'm going to. Definitely recording as we're leaving Buc-ee's, but I need to do something. That's huge. It's like very huge inside. Almost the size of a supermarket. I wish I could zoom in, but I can't. So, going into Buc-ee's, it's basically one of like the big gasoline convenience store chains in Texas. They have really big gasoline like station like pumps. They have like almost 40 pumps even at the Temple one. It's just like just about the same like if you're going to the flagship one that everyone goes to in New Braunfels, or I think even around the Dallas Metroplex, the Houston Metroplex, you'll see them. I think they're in Houston. I know they're in Dallas and Fort Worth, but yeah, it's a huge place. Like basically going inside, it's about the size of a supermarket, except half of it is a convenience store gas station sort of deal. The other half is all their merch, which is surprising. But they have also really good food. It's been now a month since we I've had that since we've been there, and oddly enough, I'm wearing my Buc-ee shirt. But just going there and man, the food, it's amazing. They actually have really, really good food for what it is at Buc-ee's. Apparently, I had a friend who went to the East Coast and experienced like Wawa's and all the other convenience store chains over there. But I think Buc-ee's has has a runs for its money if it decides to expand outside of Texas. And it's definitely good food, good vibes, good atmosphere. But it's like a very big place. Like where everything's bigger in Texas. Buc-ee's surprisingly is one example as well. If you end up finding yourself at a Buc-ee's, go try out their sandwiches. Definitely the brisket. The brisket's pretty amazing. I'm surprised for a chain convenience store gas station sort of deal. They have some pretty good brisket. Pulled pork was pretty good as well. They also have kolaches, which I think I did not know it was a Texas staple. All because of Polish. I'm gonna look this up again before I forget. Czech Republic and the Slovakian region. Okay, I see. I had the wrong one, but like they're like really known for it, especially the savory kolaches, like sausage, hot dog, and whatnot. I did not know that, and apparently, I think it was like 30 minutes or an hour north of Texas, and like closer to Waco. Like it's like the home base for all the Czech people, basically, who emigrated to Texas from I guess the East Coast. I don't remember the history. It's been a while since I searched this up, so correct me if I'm wrong. I probably am. But they have yeah really good food, and then your standard convenience store stuff like drinks, snacks, and whatnot, and hopefully on the vlog. But also the merch. The merch. I also have a mug over there at the kitchen, and then my parents got a couple things at Buc-ee's as well. And I'm honestly surprised to say that I never expected to spend around like 100, $150 at a convenience store. But man, we did. And it was worth it. It definitely was. So if you ever see yourselves finding a Buc-ee's in Texas while you're in Texas, go take a visit, go have some food, go get some merch and whatnot, and support the good old Buc-ee's beaver. I went the wrong way. Buc-ee's beaver. But yeah, I guess with that, after talking about Buc-ee's, because I should have put this in the Texas part of the vlog, but I didn't. Oops. I'm going to be talking about certain takeaways and advice throughout this whole road trip. All right, so with this part of the video, I basically have a whole list here on Notepad of like what I've learned, and I think about the same from my parents have learned throughout this whole road trip that we did for basically a month. To note, we actually did travel 29 days, almost 30 days to the point, because when we got back, it was, I think I think we came back on the 30th or the 29th. I can't remember. Oh, 29th. So almost a month ever since we left Central California, this house, basically, on April 30th. Throughout that whole trip, half the time we were actually in Texas, living with staying at my brother's place. The other half, a whole whopping 15 nights, were at hotel rooms, and oh my god, that cost quite a bit. However, I do have a couple tips here along the way that may help you out trying to plan out your trip and whatnot. All I'm gonna say is definitely take it easy if you're going to do a road trip. I know it's great to just go from point A to point B immediately, but if you could do that with flying, I wouldn't do it as a road trip. I would like to take my time. I'll share like the rest of the tips right there. Yeah, you know what? Let's get started. So, first things for takeaways of this trip is just preparation. You may have an idea of how you want to prep the trip and whatnot, but this is my advice of what we've learned throughout the 4 weeks we were out. So, first things first. Apparently, try not to pack up a lot. Like pack up a lot of clothes. I accidentally somehow ended up packing about 2 weeks of clothes of like a whole variety of like shirts for sleeping, shirts for going out, pants, pajamas, all that stuff. I ended up packing like close to 2 weeks. One tip, pack only up to 1 week. So about 7 days. If not, if you could try less, go for it. If you can go for 7 days, that'd be great. And just use that. Because on a road trip, you're going to most likely be staying at a hotel or at a friend's place or somewhere that has easy access to a laundromat or a laundry service. Utilize that. Don't carry these 2 weeks of clothes and then expect that you're going to have enough. You want to pack a little bit lighter than that. I've realized that now. Honestly, I should have treated this like like going to the Philippines trip for a month. You only pack for about a week or so. And when in doubt, if you end up packing not a lot, you can always buy more. You can go to a local Walmart. If you're in the United States, there's a Walmart, there's a Target, there's stores everywhere. You can go there, buy, cheap shirt, buy, touristy shirts for pending wherever you go. If you're going to like a tourist attraction or Buc-ee's, apparently, you could buy, shirts there. Heck, even pajamas and a onesie, I think. But you can buy clothes along the way, and you won't have to worry about just overpacking things right from the get go. Because once you start overpacking, it's going to be hard to figure out how much space you're going to have in the car, because you also need to make space for not only your clothes, but maybe like a cooler just to keep drinks and snacks along the side to keep it cool, especially during the warmer months. Technology and like that, I have like a whole list of that, and amongst many other things. Don't primarily pack your car with just clothes, because that's not going to be enough for everything you need for a road trip. I promise you that. So, pack up a week of clothes at most and leave it at that. You should be able to fit that on a carry-on suitcase or a duffel bag pretty easily, and yeah, you won't have an issue. Wherever you stay, you'll have a laundromat no matter what to do some laundry. And it's a pain, but it's just like staying at home. You do end up doing laundry at the end. So, next advice here is, while you should only pack a week worth of clothes, I do suggest packing at least one jacket or hoodie and a hat. There are times where the weather will go south, whether it be too hot, too cold, rainy, or too sunny. These two things have definitely helped out on the road trip. Especially for a jacket and hoodie, especially where I sit in the front, the sun's really bounces towards the window and it gets really hot, even with the AC cranked on-ish. At least with a jacket or hoodie, you could just put that over your legs and you'll cool down, even if you're wearing jeans, sweats, or anything. Put the hoodie over there. The hoodie will absorb all the heat, and your legs will not be nicely warm and not toasted. I promise you that. It's very uncomfortable to just have those sun rays bouncing onto your jeans or sweats. It's just ugh. And then obviously a hat, protect yourself. Protect yourself from the heat, protect yourself from the rain, just in case. You don't want to have a bad time. I promise you that. Third thing is to, while prepping, plan out where you want to go, but generally. Don't, if possible, if you're already prepping this like 3-4 weeks in advance, prep generally where you want to go. Figure out your route, figure out the places you want to visit. Because plans do change. Even if you say 4 weeks in advance, it's like, okay, we're going to say Yellowstone, right? Coming down to like a couple days, up to like 72 hours before you're gonna get there, it snows. You can't last minute prep that. And especially if you've already booked your accommodation, all that stuff, it will be a hassle to cancel or change. Probably not now, since even though COVID restrictions are laxing, I think they still do have free modifications and free cancellations up to 24 hours before you check in. However, this may change in the future because whenever you're watching this rule may change. So what I suggest is plan out generally where you're going to go, at least with the routes you're going to be going, the states, the cities you're going to be visiting. And then from there, up to 72 hours, try and figure out where you want to stop by. And at least with like booking things up to 72 hours, it gives you a rough idea of what the weather might be like, what to expect on the road, and all that stuff. The only thing that will impede you is a major accident on the highway or something like that. Or, God forbid, your car breaks down. Hopefully not. Get that, also get maintenance. I should probably put that as the next tip. But be flexible. Don't book everything 4 weeks in advance. I mean, unless if you can very well sure 110% say it will not happen, something may happen. So just be prepared, plan it out, generally, and then once you know where you're going to go, pinpoint your locations, book it up to 72 hours in advance. I'd say up to 72 hours is probably the best time to do it because usually you'll find deals, unless if it's a popular location and you may need to require extra time. But 72 hours should be enough to plan out your trip. So plan out generally first and then book everything up to 72 hours, especially for a road trip. One thing that I do want to say when you're booking things is definitely do sign up for hotel rewards, for like the Hilton rewards, the Marriott, Bonvoy, and I think Wyndham rewards, and all like the big chains that are up and down the United States. This usually the hotel rewards are free to sign up and can give you special discounts and amenities for quite a bit of things actually. When you book your stay during the road trip, you can earn points for free nights for the future. So who knows? Maybe after a road trip, you end up wanting to do a city break to your nearest big city. You may be able to find like a Marriott or a Wyndham resort there and then be able to use those points and book a free night. Hey, another trip. And sometimes if once you do sign up for their hotel rewards, you may be able to unlock special privileges on like lower prices. I have noticed that when I booked a whole bunch of Marriott resorts, especially for Town Place suites. Shout out to you, Marriott and the Town Place suites. You got those suites are pretty good and pretty standardized. I definitely give a shout out to that one. If you ever want to figure out what kind of hotel you want to stay in, forget the Days Inn and the Motel 6. If you can find yourself a Town Suites, you'll have a pretty good night. I promise you that. But usually they can be cheaper than say booking it through Expedia or Trivago. Having that free membership will give you those discounts, and they will be able to encourage you to have other discounts, maybe like AAA, AARP, all that stuff. So, pair that up with the hotel rewards, earn points, and get those free nights. For like hotel brands, I would say choose one. Even though I, pronounce before Hilton, Marriott, Wyndham, all that stuff. I think also Best Western. Try to choose one brand, because if you're planning to book a couple nights going down, the interstate, going across the country, going wherever, and you'll need like you'll be staying 5, 10, 20 nights. Who knows? That has happened to us. We stayed 15 nights throughout our trip. If you stick with one brand, you can earn a lot more points and probably earn a lot better amenities, and you get status if you book just one chain. Again, I trusted Marriott because I've used them before for one trip, and I decided, why the heck not? Let's use it for all the trips. So I have like a whole crap ton of points on the Marriott thing that I could probably use for a free night. And who knows, maybe in the future I'll have status with them because of all these bookings that I've done. And plus, usually, if you stick with one brand, they'll be consistent. I find Marriott's town suites and all that, they're consistent. Hilton, they're also consistent as well with Garden Inn, Hilton, Loft, and the other cheaper brands, as well as like Wyndham's, Motel 6. Actually, no, Motel 6, Super 8, and Days Inn have like a hit or miss sort of deal because it's usually either franchise owned, but usually they're also owned by the company itself, but they can have a variety of things. The ones I've stated, they're usually standardized across the board. Another thing for prep is to bring some tech essentials. You'll have your smartphone, and if you're doing that, you can listen to some music, so bring some earphones or headphones. A power bank, that's definitely helpful. Even if your car has USB, having a battery power bank does help, especially during some unfortunate situations that you may or may not encounter. Plus, it's portable, so if you do end up going to a rest stop that you need to get out of the car and stretch, hey, at least you're plugged in. You can bring that power bank and your phone with you, and you're still being charged. Just remember to charge your power bank every night at the hotel or whatever. And then, if possible, bring a tablet, bring a laptop. It's portable. You could check your emails and all that stuff as much as, unless if you're used to checking your emails on your smartphone. Do a lot of things, give it to a kid, and they'll have a whole bunch of time. Bunch of fun time, basically. Sure. But those are like my essentials: a power bank, headphones, earphones, tablet, laptop. Oh, and charging cables. I would suggest bringing extra charging cables just in case. You may not know when you may lose it. So if you ever need to replace a cable, you'll at least have a replacement right there. Speaking of tech, one thing that we trusted the most with my family whenever we go on road trips is to have a standalone GPS. As much as you could trust Apple Maps and Google Maps on your phone, there are times where you may not be able to get anything out of it. It's because cell service may be spotty or none at all. Especially in the west, especially if you're going towards like the west coast and whatnot. So basically in the mountain time zones, so that'd be Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, Arizona. Usually in the middle of nowhere, you may not get signal, even if you're on the interstate. You just may not get signal, and your whole connection will drop, and you may not be able to get any route guidance from your smartphone. At least with a standalone GPS, it locks into GPS satellite up in space, and be able to provide you route guidance to wherever you're going to go. However, as I say that, I would suggest if you do end up getting a standalone GPS and you have options to use, your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, with the Google Maps and whatnot, put them together. The GPS will help you guide you normally to wherever you're going, but wherever there's signal, Google and Apple Maps can redirect you to easier routes that make it easier for you to travel to your end destination or bypass a detour, basically. And it has helped a couple times to avoid certain places, certain major cities and whatnot, using Apple Maps. And I would or Google Maps. And I would suggest even using Google Maps right before you travel, right before you get out the door and into your car and drive. Survey. Go into Google Maps, see what your end destination is for the night, and then survey the routes you can take. If you find the route that you want to take and it'd be different from the GPS, just remember that route, deviate off of it, and let the GPS recalculate to the proper route. It'll help. Or have both of them running at the same time and then follow one of them. It helps. Plus, it allows you to find like gas stations and whatnot when you're using your Google Maps while you have the GPS for your final destination. That's what we ended up doing towards the end of the trip, actually. We had the GPS set to our final destination while the Google Maps are set to a rest stop or gas station or whatnot, just to make it easier for us to guide ourselves to places. Garmin TomTom is the one I usually trust the most. I wouldn't trust the other ones. Maybe Randy McNally, but I haven't really used it as much compared to Garmin and TomTom. And definitely Garmin. We've been using it ever since 2007 for our road trips. So if you need some recommendations, there you go. But with that, that's pretty much for all the prep. Now for the travel. All right, now we're on the travel section of the travel takeaways, sort of deal. And I do have a couple points here that hopefully will help you guys out once you're out on the road. First things first, I think I've said this before, but I'm going to just restate it again. If possible, give yourself some extra time and be flexible when going from point A to point B. Plan out extra days to visit certain tours or local attractions along the way, because you may not know. If you're going from, say, California to Chicago, right? There's a couple places you can go to. Salt Lake, Reno, Nevada, Mount Rushmore. Like, sure, it's a big detour, but hey, it's along the way. Yellowstone, hell. So, give yourself extra days and give yourself some extra time. Because, again, you may not know what you will encounter along the way. I would also suggest drive only during the daytime hours to experience basically everything that United States or your country can offer. The scenery, the environment, it's just a lot to take in during the daytime, and it's just one amazing time to see. Just to see everything, especially if you're a city or suburban folk, it's just nice to see the rural countryside. You don't get to see that during the nighttime. All you get to see is darkness, your headlights, and some people others' headlights, and maybe wildlife that may cross in front of you. Hopefully not, but at least during the daytime, you could get to admire and take in everything around you. Heck, with that, you may even stop along the way and take a couple pictures. It will happen. It has happened to us. It will happen to you. And obviously, with that, plan extra time. Plan your extra time for your gas breaks, your pee breaks, and your rest breaks. You'll be traveling for upwards to 7 to 8 hours. You'll say, if you search it up on Google Maps, you're traveling from point A to point B, it'll be 7 hours. Most likely it'll take 8 hours because you have to gas up, you gotta pee. Maybe your driver needs to take a nap or you need to switch. So give yourself some extra time. Don't plan out I wouldn't suggest planning out a 12-hour trip unless if you know you could do it. But, plan something out 6 to 7 hours away and then take yourself 9 hours to get there. It will make it so much easier for you to get from point A to point B. just having that extra time is great so you can at least relax and admire everything. I promise you that. So this may be a debatable point, but my next point for travel is rather than taking the interstate to get to your destination, take the local roads. By local, I mean like state highways and the U.S. national highway. That's not freeways. You get to take in a lot more scenery, environment, and experience what the locals do. Well, not really what the locals do, but you like to get to see what the locals do, basically, when you travel down these state highways or U.S. highways. I would suggest going down the backcountry road that is dirt. That's not a very great shortcut or whatnot. But state highways, U.S. highways, they're they're definitely different from interstates, because interstates you just bypass everything. State highways, U.S. highways, you end up visiting a lot more small towns and settlements along the way, and you're just literally right there. You'll travel through a town, you'll see that weird four-way stop in the middle of the town, and you continue on. But then along the way, you get to see all the locals. You get to see, get to take in everything that's going around in that town and whatnot. And who knows? Maybe with that, you may just stop and take it in. Maybe talk to someone and all that stuff. It may happen. And also surprisingly, I don't know how, I don't know why. But usually there is a lot less traffic on state highways and U.S. highways compared to interstates, especially when you're traveling like between two big destinations or two not big destinations where usually everyone travels on the interstate. When you travel on the state or national highway, it's like almost empty for the most part, unless if it's like a major thoroughfare. Then that there's that difference, but usually they're a lot less busy than the interstate because truckers won't go down that way unless if they have their endpoint on the highway on that highway. And usually they can't usually take those shortcuts because sometimes they're restricted to it. So take those state U.S. highways. There are also times you avoid major cities. I think I remember actually going from Temple, Texas to Amarillo. If you take the interstate, you have to go through the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, go to Oklahoma City, and then travel west towards Amarillo. Rather than doing that, travel State Highway 36, visit the small couple towns. You go to Abilene, Lubbock, and like the small cities, and then boom, you're in Amarillo roughly the same time. So, and that's like a completely different experience. You don't get to experience a lot of traffic, but you get to experience the environment and the scenery. However, and then lastly, I say, however, be sensible when you choose your local roads. Again, not the dirt tracks or anything like that. Choose something that, if it's on the way and you could do it, even if it takes you an extra 30, 40 minutes, go for it. You may not you may not expect you wouldn't know what to expect going down that way. If you do feel uncomfortable, the interstates are there. But if you want to be adventurous and experience more things and take in the environment, definitely take those local. However, while you're on the interstate, if you ever need to figure out where to gas up, pee, and eat, trust the truck stops. Trust the Loves, the Pilot, the Flying J, the TA. Those are like the main four truck stops all across, at least Midwest to Western America. I think it's a little bit different on the East Coast, but if they're there, trust them. Usually in these truck stop chain locations, they're usually standardized in terms of getting food, so like snacks and whatnot, or fast food, gasoline, and restrooms. And surprisingly, for the most part, not really surprisingly, but for the most part, the restrooms at these truck stops are usually cleaned, and they're usually maintained on the hour, compared to like say if you're going to like a random Thinky Sinclair or Chevron right off the interstate. Those restrooms may be less monitored, less maintained compared to at a Love's, at a Pilot. Usually they're maintained every hour or so, they're cleaned every hour or so for all the people who stop by. And surprisingly, there is a lot of people that stop by these truck stops, so definitely do take them. Usually at these truck stops, they do have a bigger variety in terms of food, drinks for all your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. They carry, every national brand and all that stuff. Maybe some special things, maybe some regional stuff as well. You may also find some trinkets and souvenirs along the way if you end up just passing through the state. And then usually these truck stops have fast food joints. Usually at a Love's, I find Carl's Jr., Subway, and a couple other things. Some of them will have a McDonald's. Some of them will have a Wendy's or even a Denny's. Like I've seen a couple that have like diners. So you always have a national brand to trust at these truck stops. So definitely utilize them. And actually, surprisingly, well, also maybe not surprisingly, but these truck stops usually have cheaper gas than say the Chevron or Sinclair next door. They usually do. Because they're national brand. They have decent gasoline. I never had an issue with getting gas at these truck stops. So trust them, and yeah. Wow, I'm great at explaining. Oh, and one last thing with the truck stops. Usually they're actually placed every 50 to 100 miles away. So on the interstate, they're usually outside of the city, and then if between the two cities is like about 300 miles, you usually see them every 50 miles or so. Just to allow the truckers as well as you traveling to be able to gas up, get food, and if needed, to use the restroom. And they're usually there. They're open 24 hours for the most part, and there to serve you. So, you know. And then one last thing for travel is definitely, I don't know why I have to say this, but yeah, definitely adhere to speed limits as much as possible, especially if you're traveling across different states. Be conscious of the speed you're going at, because speed limits will change from state to state. Um, in California, there's a max speed limit of 70 miles per hour. When you get to Nevada and Utah, it goes up to 80 miles an hour on certain sections of the highway. Arizona and New Mexico goes up to 75 miles per hour. So, be wary. Those max speed limits do change. You can go faster, you can go slower. And also be wary of when you enter a city limit. Usually you'll see signs of saying that you're entering, Las Vegas, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Salt Lake City. at those city limits, usually there's highway patrol catching speeders along the way. And usually at those sections, the speed limit do reduce. So maybe the speed limit will be like 80 miles an hour because you're traveling through the Salt Lake or through the desert. Once you reach the city, say Salt Lake City, the speed will reduce, usually to 65 miles an hour. And at that point, probably a mile or at the post, highway patrol will be there to catch you. So be wary of your surroundings. Know when the speed will be reduced. A tip: if you're using Google Maps, Apple Maps, or current Garmin GPSs, they do alert you for speed changes. So you will go down from 80 to 65 and you will know when the speed will reduce. But there's always signs along the way, about like half a mile before the speed limit changes, saying that you're entering a 65 zone, you're entering a 55 zone. Just be wary of that. And also with construction, you also got to be wary on construction sites, because usually highway patrol is also there to maintain safety. But they can also be there to write up a ticket if you're speeding through a construction zone, especially if they're active. There'll be times where the interstate will be closed down from 2 lanes to 1 lane. If you're lucky enough and have no one on the highway except for highway patrol, still mind your speed. Usually during these situations, construction sites, if it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane, usually there'll be traffic building up. But there'll be a rare occurrence that you'll see it empty. Still be wary, because who knows where that highway patrol will be waiting for you. Because not only they have to maintain the safety for the workers, but they also want to be sure that you're not being reckless when you pass them. So, also a little tip here. For those who want to know where highway patrol are usually parked at, especially if you're traveling between cities, be wary of them hiding under overpasses, under bridges, behind trees, and actually after a curve descent. So after a curve on the road, after going downhill, as well as facing on ramps. So if you pass through an exit, slow down. Who knows? They may stop. They may be perched on top of the on ramp, checking speed. So, be wary of that. But also be wary of when you enter a city. They're usually there. For the most part, they're usually at the city limit, catching speeders along the way. So that's just my little tip for the speed limits and highway patrol. Just be wary of what speed you're going. It may be tempting to travel fast down the lone flat highway, but there could be a highway patrol 5 miles ahead, and you may not know that. I guess also one small other tip: have someone look around the surroundings. Have that second eye to catch highway patrol parked on the side, so then you can be alerted to slow down. That's like my unadvisable tip there. Speaking of tips, I do have two tips that I have on here that I've learned, especially when we're traveling and going to national parks. Actually, I've actually said this on the Yellowstone and a little bit on Teton. But if you're visiting national parks on your road trip, consider getting the America the Beautiful annual pass or the senior lifetime pass. Either of them are $80. One of them is an annual pass for adults who are usually the driver or whatnot. Unless if you're a senior, get the lifetime pass. It lasts literally for a lifetime until you lose it. I wouldn't suggest you losing it, because after that you have to replace that because it's not traceable. But with this pass, you can visit the 3,500 national parks that are all around the United States. And one cool thing about it is, if you're a pass holder, you can enter to all the parks. But some of the parks won't be a drive-in park, so you drive up to the park. Most of them could be walk-in. I think the one notable example I have is Alcatraz. That one you have to show your card, and then you go to the ferry to go to the island. With that, you can't bring a guest with you, and they can't come in for free. However, for Yellowstone, Teton, Grand Canyon, and up and coming for Redding, Last National Park, if you're the primary driver and you have the pass and you're the pass holder, everyone in your car can get in without paying extra, unless if you're staying overnight and that has extra rules that you could search it up. But if you're the primary driver and you're driving, a couple passengers along the way, especially on a road trip, they can all get in if you have the annual pass or the lifetime pass as a senior. So it will save you a lot of money, especially if you're planning to visit more than 2 national parks, because one national park on average costs about $30 to $35. 2 is $70. So basically you're close. If you're planning to visit 2 or more, definitely get the annual pass. Plus, it's a really nice souvenir. I wish I had my dad's lifetime pass because it looks a really cool card. But you get a card, you get a little tag, and all that stuff. And it's like a fun souvenir to say, hey, throughout this road trip, I visited national parks using this. It's really cool. And then one last thing, those who, for 2021 at least, for cell service, we use T-Mobile. We ended up changing from AT&T to T-Mobile last year. And throughout this travel, we actually managed to be able to connect throughout our trip. We had some decent 4G, 5G service. I have a Note 20 Ultra, so I actually gave you some 5G service in a couple areas. Usually throughout the West Coast and the Midwest while going between cities. So that'd be California, a little bit of Arizona, Nevada. Actually, I've had that some decent signal there, as well as like Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and all that stuff. However, in Wyoming and Western Kansas and Eastern Colorado, we had some issues connecting to service around there. And here's going to be a little bit technical on this. As of now, most of these phones can connect to almost any network per se, even if you are on your primary network. So say from T-Mobile, you should be able to connect to almost any tower per se. At least like with T-Mobile, you can connect to AT&T towers and it aggregates. So you'll be able to have service wherever you travel. However, in like between Wyoming and Kansas, for whatever reason, there is this like regional service they have that will provide service. But I think only call service, even though it says you have 4G LTE signal, you may not be able to use it. I remember having issues trying to access Google Maps whenever I try to like figure out where we need to stop by because of this little weird carrier aggregation abnormality. So, while T-Mobile likes to promote that they have, proper 5G access almost everywhere throughout your road trip, they're kind of right. And like I've had some issues along the way, so I guess they need to fix that. And also, fun fact, in national parks, for the most part, you won't have signal because it's a national park. They won't put a tower there. So just be prepared if you're planning to visit a national park. Just if you're needing extra data or anything like that, download some apps or something like that, or have a GPS like I suggested before. Because for the most part, national parks, no signal. But with that, I think that's pretty much all my travel takeaways from this whole road trip and the little advice that I decided to share. If you have any questions or any comments that you want to post, put it down below. I'm going to respond to all of them as best as I can. If you have any extra questions, I could try and answer it as best as possible. Hopefully next week, or maybe Sunday, I don't know yet, but maybe mostly next week, I'm going to be uploading the Reading part of the vlogs. For those who doesn't know, my family and I went to Reading just this past week. Today is the 24th. We went 5 days ago and just came back yesterday. Went to visit Reading to do a little mini road trip and see the many things, and actually got the annual pass when we're at Lassen. So, but I've captured quite a bit and had to use my gimbal, and I think I had a fun time recording with my gimbal. So hopefully I have some really good footage. But I have like really good footage of like all the places we visited. So do stay tuned for that. Again, if you guys enjoyed this video, give me a like for this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hopefully I'll see you guys next time in Reading or wherever. In any case, I hope you guys have a great day or night, wherever the heck you are. See you guys next time. This is Spam Waits. See ya. I have no idea how to do my intro.